time to play ball. Welcome to the podcast with no limits, whether it be sports, current events, or random thoughts. This is the place to step in and stay a while. Your host is a proud alumnus of Rio Hondo Prep, a former minor league baseball umpire, and a man with strong opinions. Welcome to the Get Home Safe podcast and your host, Matt Hersema.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Get Home Safe. We have a very special guest today on the podcast. And I know at one point I was having guests on weekly. And even before that, we had guests daily when we were doing a 5 days a week show. Now we're just down to 1 day a week. And usually it's just me rambling about my thoughts on sports, current events, or whatever is going on through my mind. Of course, the loyal listeners, you know this, but we might have a few new listeners today, as we have a great guest on the program that may, in fact, bring in some new listeners to the Get Home Safe podcast. I started this podcast up in 2020, for those that don't know, and just it's been a fun evolution in talking to various guests, various friends in the sports industry, and also, again, just sharing my 2 cents on things for those that want to listen. So if you're a new listener to the podcast, welcome. You can follow our podcast on YouTube, Rumble. You can listen to it on various listening platforms, Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, things of that nature. So a little housekeeping there. And of course, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you can follow us there for those of you who are new to the podcast. And as many of the loyal listeners know, I am a huge fan of combat sports, specifically boxing, UFC. Friday night, last night, I was watching some one fighting on Amazon Prime. It was interesting. It was another form of MMA, a lot of Muay Thai, if you will. So I'm still learning, year in and year out, how all this works. And I'm inspired by fighters because it's the one sport where really you can talk as much trash as you want, in my opinion, because you got to back it up, right? And it's just been a lot of fun to see when, other sports have kind of, I don't know, they've maybe gotten watered down over the years, but I think fighting is the one sport that has kept us together, has united us, if you will, which is kind of ironic, right? So I love football. I love basketball. I love baseball. I love hockey, but there's something special about boxing and MMA. And so anytime I get to talk to someone who's in that industry, I'm incredibly fired up about it. I went to my first boxing fight probably 3 or 4 years ago down in Pachanga with my brother. And that was a blast seeing boxing in person. Can't wait to get to my first UFC event or MMA down the road. But anyway, today we are going to be joined by a good friend of mine named Robert James. And I haven't talked to him in a great deal of time. He and I crossed paths on the baseball field a few years ago. Well, it's been a while now, almost 10 years, I'd say, but we stayed in touch. Robert is a great baseball umpire, has worked at the college level. That's where we met. And he is somebody that is involved in combat sports. He's currently a ring announcer, and he's climbing the ladder. He's been doing this a while. He's currently works for Red Boxing Promotions, Elite Boxing Promotions, Fight City Boxing Promotions. He's on the MMA side. He works for 559 Fights, Arena Wars, and CFC MMA. So he's got quite the resume he's put together. And I don't care if you're a fighter, a trainer, a promoter, a ring announcer, a judge, a referee. I love combat sports. Tonight is, as we record this on May 6th, we have UFC 288 as well as Canelo Alvarez fight, right? So how can you not be fired up for the fight game with a big weekend ahead? I still can't wrap my head around why the two sports, boxing and MMA, always seem to clash. Like they can't just come to an agreement that, hey, we have fans who like both sports and it's hard to watch both at the same time. Maybe we should do them on different days, rotate. I don't know. I wish I was in charge for a day, but anyway, we're going to bring on Robert James on the podcast today to talk about his journey in the fight game, what it takes to get involved in these sports in some, manner or fashion or whatever. I know that for me, working in baseball, working in various sports, I've done, instant replay for the basketball, college basketball. I've officiated football and baseball at the college level, umpired baseball at the professional level over a decade ago. And I've done some stuff at Fox Studios for the NFL stuff there. I've done stuff in press boxes for baseball, working clock and scoreboard type stuff. So I'm always intrigued by the guys behind the scenes, if you will. And Robert James is someone who's not behind the scenes. He's front and center, literally center ring with his microphone, making those big announcements for the upcoming fights. And I can promise you this, down the road, you're going to see a lot more of Robert in the ring or the octagon, whatever the case may be. And you're going to remember, hey, I remember hearing that guy on that Get Home Safe podcast that is still probably this tiny podcast with not a ton of listeners, but that's where, I first heard of him. So we're going to get to know a lot about the boxing game, the MMA game. I'm really fired up about this podcast. If you guys can't tell, happy Cinco de Mayo, everyone. I hope you're all recovering nicely on this fine Saturday. And we have the Canelo Alvarez fight, of course, tonight, as is always the case with Cinco de Mayo weekend. And then a great card this evening. Is it Sterling versus Cejudo, I think, in 288, UFC 288. So let's get those gloves on. Let's tape our wrists, however you get ready for the big fights. Let's get going here with Robert James on the podcast and get this Saturday going right with a professional ring announcer. I'm pleased to call my friend and someone I'm looking forward to catching up with because it has been quite some time. So without any more interruptions, it is my privilege to bring to you professional ring announcer, Robert James. All right, it is now my privilege to be joined by ringside announcer Robert James. And, Robert, it's not too often I get to introduce an announcer. It's something that you do every day. But, I'll just say welcome to the Get Home Safe podcast, man. What's up?
Hey, what's up? Thank you for having me.
Robert, it's been far too long, man. I think the first time we met and maybe even the last time we saw each other in person we were on a dusty field at LA Valley Community College. They since have, rebuilt the stadium. It's really nice. But back then it was like a dirt lot.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, they did. They actually just went back there this year and I did a game against them. I believe it's Pierce College. It was interesting. Nice new facility, much more better than what we had to deal with back in the days.
For sure. And, Robert, man, I've umpired a lot over the years. I don't anymore, but it's just funny how you cross paths with so many people in the industry. And, a lot of people you don't forget, even if it's just kind of one interaction. I think we've stayed in touch a little bit from a distance. So it's really good to see you and catch up today and talk about a couple of sports that we both like.
Sure.
Excited to do this. So, Robert, if you would talk to me a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and I don't know, just a little bit of your background.
Just about my background, I grew up in San Gabriel Valley. I was born in East LA, as a matter of fact, in Boyle Heights. Brought up in Almani, California. Went to Rosemead High School, and when I graduated, I joined the United States Army and never looked back. Later in life, fast forwarding, I got into baseball, and through baseball actually got me into ring announcing, as a matter of fact. And both of those kind of tying together, and both those things, baseball, 17 seasons. I mean, we've been doing this for a while, and then of course, transitioning, I was actually doing a little showcase game at Cal State LA, and I was announcing names of players who were being showcased, and someone came up to me and said, "Hey, would you ever think about doing ring announcing?" I'm like, sure, why not? I don't want to turn down opportunity. If you think I've got what it takes, give me a guy. Give me who do you know who I can talk to? I got pointed in the right direction. I started doing amateur shows, and before I know it, it was on a crack in the boxing scene. I got into professional boxing and gone to MMA, and here we are. In a nutshell.
Man, absolutely. We got a lot to unpack there. First of all, we are recording Saturday, May 6th. The day after Cinco de Mayo, which I'm sure is a fun time for a lot of people. But a couple of big fights tonight. Canelo Alvarez, of course, in the boxing world, and then UFC 288. So I thought it was rather fitting that we could talk about some combat sports here with you.
Absolutely. Let's talk.
If you're not out working, are you keeping a close eye on the boxing and MMA world?
Sometimes I do and I don't, because now I'm so busy with shows on the weekends. It's I try to stay focused on what's in front of me, and as far as the fighters that I deal with, I mean, as far as the big time shows, I'll be there, but it's also good to see them too, and the cool thing about the big time shows, I work with all those people from the commission, from the referees, judges, and I mean, these are the same guys that work with me in my other shows, and it's interesting to see how what they do there, and also too, it's just watching it and just kind of understanding it, as a fan's perspective, but myself, being in there and just kind of like seeing it from the outside, looking in, and all of a sudden I'm that guy in the octagon, or I'm that guy in the ring. And it's just interesting for me, on that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to go back to kind of the beginning, as you mentioned there, growing up in East LA. And, for me, I grew up in San Gabriel Valley as well. I now live in Covina. But as I've watched boxing over the years specifically, there seems to be a lot of fighters who come from that area of East LA. So, I mean, do you have a theory as to why that is? I mean, just as someone who grew up there?
I think, the lifestyle there, I mean, it's kind of rough, and as far as like, fighting and stuff like that, it's what it is, especially back in the 80s and 90s. And, you have guys like Oscar De La Hoya coming out of East LA. I mean, you got, that's a big name, but I mean, you have several others coming out of the area. But, it's a boxing fight. I mean, even MMA, I mean, guys do it. It doesn't really cost a lot. It's just your heart, and sometimes your environment will dictate, like, hey, I'm pretty good at this. Might as well make some money at it, and that's that's just the area. And it's a tough area, and, creates tough people. And you get those types of athletes in, MMA and boxing. I mean, it's what it is out there. And, you get some really good talent coming out of these areas, especially, East LA, San Gabriel Valley, places like that.
No, you got that right for sure. It's like every fight card I turn on, there's someone from, this area, which is awesome to see and to say, because it gives us fans really someone to root for. It's like, I always try to root for someone who's either from California or from this area. I'm like, okay, I want to root for that guy,
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So talk to me about the Army. You said you went into the Army 97 through 2005. What kind of pushed you into that avenue?
My mother served. It's family tradition. A lot of my family members are veterans. We served in different branches, primarily Army and the Marine Corps. Have one out that just, she retired from the Navy, Aunt Tricia. Currently, I have one of my cousins. He just made the rank of first sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. Big ups to you. And they're twins too. So Ronnie, if you're listening, watching, hey man, congratulations on your promotion to E8. So he's a little bit younger than me, but he stuck it out, man. And we have a huge tradition of military service in our family. So that's what drove me. And I mean, and also too, just to get out of the house and, become my own person and have a solid foundation and see, just take my chances. And it just made sense to me after I graduated high school to enlist.
Well, God bless you all, man. We huge fans of the veterans here and our U.S. military. It's a patriotic time of year with Memorial Day and the 4th of July right around the corner. So it's always a reminder to give thanks to those who've served and give it so much to us. What was, I don't know the correct terminology, so excuse me there. What did you specialize in the Army during your years there?
I did military police, administration, and recruiting. So recruiting was actually the fun part. I got to come home and recruit and represent the Army. And I actually was stationed in the Pasadena office, and that was aside from the other stuff. The other stuff is what it is, and we all have our stories of our military careers. It's just, we can go on about that, but just to be in a nutshell, I mean, as far as my highlight, which carried me, recruiting, public speaking. It got me over. I had to go do a lot of presentations on behalf of the United States Army. And that's kind of where, like the ring announcing kind of comes in, because I was able to, I'd go as a 19-year-old little corporal. And, I went over to Pasadena City College in front of a nursing program, in front of 100 students that, that were pursuing, nursing degrees and credentials. And I had to, talk to them and make sense and sound right. So that kind of just got me over the whole, into the public speaking game. And, I give credit to that because it's helped me later in life.
It's so funny how we don't always know the things we're doing are preparing us for something later. And that's, I've had a ton of that go through my life. And man, Army recruiting. So you weren't just sitting in some office waiting for walk-ins. You were actively going out and participating and making pitches.
That's right.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
So
I had good leadership in my office, and they pushed me to meet my numbers and just make sure I did the best I can. I appreciate the people I serve with, and if Mr. Sergeant Major Suppress, if you're watching, that you created this monster here, just letting you know.
That is so funny. What would you say to like a 18-year-old kid who walked into your office, or if there was one, if you had to make a pitch to a guy, or his, he's an adult now at that point, or a young lady even, I mean, what would kind of be your pitch in a quick sell to them?
You know what? Hands down. Are you ready to join? You ready to make a change with your life? If you're ready, here we go. Here I am. Come talk to me.
The challenge.
Right.
Interesting. That's cool. Well, God bless you again and your family there. It's great stuff. So where did baseball come into play? Was that something, did you play as a kid? How did you get involved in umpiring?
Yeah,
I always ask that question.
I played my whole life. And then even, towards the end, I just wanted to find something to do after I separated from the Army. And I went to umpire school. I'm sure, you went there too. Went to Harry Wendelson Umpire School. He's also a Marine Corps vet himself. Went there just to learn how to do Little League. And, I really just wanted to do Little League. And I ended up going with it. I didn't get a job in professional baseball, but I did get recommended to get into college baseball. And I met Tom Heiler and met all those people, and they got me into college baseball immediately. And it's pretty quick, but I thought it was going to go against me, but I caught on to the game fairly quickly after the school, and I survived, in the college baseball scene. Because in Southern California, we have some intense baseball out here, and even at the community college level, you can get eaten up.
Oh, big time!
You're not ready.
For sure. What year did you go to umpire school?
In 2007.
07. So I missed you by, well, I was at the Jim Evans Academy in 2009. But if you had to, as an ex-military guy, how would you compare really umpire school, 5 weeks of pretty intense training, 2 separate schools, I know, but similar stuff goes on. How would you compare that to the military training, minus, of course, all the physical conditioning or whatever?
You know what? It's the military. Obviously, they're training you for for your lifestyle in the military, as far as like adjusting to like deployments or just umpire school. They're teaching you the mechanics and the rules of baseball. They are pretty intense. But as far as they're getting you ready for a baseball game, I guess being deployed on a baseball field, we'll say, versus the United States Army, you have to get deployed, you have to engage in combat, 2 different entities, 2 different stories, and again, it's just if that makes sense. But I mean, baseball, you go out there, and it can be a battle between you and your partners. I mean, your partners are all you have, obviously, and you're going against 2 teams.
Yeah, it's usually about 50 on 2 out there in a baseball game, give or take. So, a lot of guys go to umpire school and they may, I know how to do this. I know what I'm doing. But I mean, I just remember the first few days, like, man, I thought I knew a lot of this, but there's so many little things that you learn, and just like, I got a lot to pick up here. So, I mean, where were you? Had you had any experience before, or were you kind of new to it all?
Oh my goodness. You know what? My first time I bought my umpire gear, a friend of mine, he said, "Hey, let's go to Pasadena City College, call some balls and strikes." It was an inter squad scrimmage game right before I went to umpire school. The first time, I didn't do Little League. I didn't do anything. I just went out there, watched another gentleman who was umpiring. Guess he was trying to get into college. I literally just watched him with his balls, strikes, his safes, out mechanics, and I followed suit. And I was able to fool these people and that was like 3 days before I left umpire school. So that was my first
wow.
That was my first engagement in baseball, umpiring at Pasadena City College with Evan O'Meara, and he didn't know, nobody knew. I just pulled it off.
Fake it till you make it, man. There's a lot of that in any industry, for sure. And a little more baseball here before we go or move on to something. But like, I've always felt that umpire school specifically would be good for any baseball fan out there. Not so much that they're going to pursue umpiring, but the knowledge of the rules, seeing what it's really like out there. I mean, not everyone goes into professional baseball after that experience. I was fortunate to do so, but I think it would be good for any baseball fan, really, to get to learn the game better.
Oh yeah, I think it's good for the fans and players to really understand the game, because now they know all the rules, and they know, like, hey, you could use it to their advantage. Is
Mhm.
knowing the rules, and that can help you on a big win
Yeah.
potentially.
So as far as umpiring college baseball after that day, at PCC, I know you worked in some various conferences, right? And you probably went around the country a little bit.
I did. I actually in 2016, I want to say, I just, I wanted to kind of get out of California and call some balls and strikes, and
Yeah.
I ended up going out to a SWAT camp, and I met Mike Fagan and the Fagans and Clint Fagan. Those guys were good to me, and they picked me up for Division I baseball and loaded me up my first season, and they took care of me out there. I saw a lot of good Division I baseball out in the South and out in the SWAC and in the Southland Conference. I mean, I got to work a lot of Texas. There's different A&M schools out there, different university UT schools out there, and even with the SWAC, working with the HBC schools, working at Grambling State, Southern, Alcorn, just experiencing that part of seeing, those schools, and it was fun, and I had a good time, but now things switched up. My focus is on the ring announcing, and really, really pushing it to get to my ultimate, my goals is just really making it big in the ring announcing, realm, so that's where I'm at as far as with the baseball stuff too. But
Oh, sure.
yeah,
Well, and people need to understand that Southern California umpiring scene out here, there's so many good, talented umpires. Fans and coaches may not think that, but there really are. There's so many guys that live out here, ex-pro guys, some quality college guys. So I even found myself doing similar to what you did, trying to look outside California to umpire other places because it's so competitive out here. So
yeah, yeah.
sounds like it worked out well for you. And you had a good time on the diamond, but you transitioned, as you said, to the ring, and it was just, you were out at East LA or Cal State LA. Someone just said, "Hey, we need you to announce something," and you just grabbed a mic. That's what
I
happened.
was actually, I was providing the music, and I was providing my voice, and I was having fun, and
Yeah,
I was like, now batting number 27, Guillermo Para, and it was easy for me. And people thought that's what I did. And I'm like, no, I just kind of catch on kind of quickly when I like something. And, announcing the players was fun. And I actually I made a lot of people, like, hey, they felt important when I was announcing their names. And, people recognized me with talent, and, just said, hey, I should try this and take, if I've ever tried, ring announcing, and, I made it happen. So through baseball.
through baseball again, just building blocks to other things we don't realize we're going to get into. So, what was your first? I don't know, first day, first interaction? Did you just show up at some boxing gym and say, "Hey, I want to announce"?
I actually got a gentleman from Pasadena Boxing Club named Fausto, and he allowed me to do his holiday show, and it was a freebie, but I prepared myself, watched YouTube, and kind of wrote my own script. And I went in there very well prepared for this amateur show, youth show in Pasadena. It was a Christmas show. And I went over there, and there was a lot of people, like from, Sam Watson Boxing. That's a major name in the industry. And other, there was MMA promoters there. They were just watching this youth boxing show, and they've never seen me before. And I went over there well prepared, and I cleaned house, and people were asking Fausto, where'd you find this guy? Who is this guy? Who's this Michael Buffer guy? And I was like, they and from there I got invited to do some shows. So
There's such a
MMA scene. So
there's such a good lesson there that I want to touch on, that I think a lot of people don't realize, even especially in today's like generation, that if you're really going to pursue something and give your all towards something, it's going to require work at times that you're not compensated for. It's almost like an internship, or you're just doing it because you love it. It's how I feel about like this podcast, for instance. Like, you just do it, get repetition, and you try to get better at it. I mean, how long did you pursue? I mean, did you not even think about the money? You just wanted, hey, let me get involved and get some reps?
Right. I found something that I felt comfortable with. I found something that I can see myself really doing at the next level. And again, I felt comfortable in the ring. It just wasn't anything I had to try really hard with. But at the same time, I can't sit there and say it was easy, because there's a lot of things that I needed to learn, because I was out there just, doing the basics. Out of the red corner, your winner. I didn't understand, like, hey, you have to read points in the pros. Hey, you have to someone, this decision you have to have the correct verbiage. And the understanding what the now, like, either it's the Nevada State Athletic Commission or the California State Athletic Commission, what they want. You have to have the correct verbiage to make sure that that you deliver the right outcome for legality purposes. So that kind of stuff, I had to understand that that's what it is, and that's the other part. When you're again, you're reading scores, you're reading this, and you got to make it official. I didn't understand that from the beginning, and then I totally understood. People had told me what I needed to do, and I was like a sponge, and I said, hey, I want to be better, and I had the right people telling me what I needed to do. So I'm very grateful for that.
It's interesting, the sport of boxing and MMA also, that you do learn, even if the so-called experts, you think you know it all, and you learn something every week if you're being a sponge, as you mentioned. And I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, the way other sports were kind of going and kind of being watered down, I was like, you know what, I'm going to invest more, and I want to watch boxing and UFC every weekend. It's on year round. And I'm no expert by any means, but I've learned a lot, and it's fun to see two competitors step in the ring or octagon and go at it. And you mentioned learning, like, I mean, did you have a knowledge of boxing at the time, the points and decisions and all that, or you really learned that as you went?
I learned it. I actually had an idea, but now I really took the time to really understand. I made friends in the commission, and I call them up, I pick their brains, and they're more than happy because we work together. And I want to make sure I respect the sport when I'm up there, and I'm getting this knowledge firsthand from some of the best people in the world. Yeah. And they're just a phone call away to me, and they know what it is I do when I step in either an octagon ring or a boxing ring. And out of respect for the profession, I make sure even though I don't need to know it for ring announcing, but I know it for my knowledge, and it shows when I'm in the ring, because I understand, what's going on. So
I forgot to ask, what year did this start? About how long ago?
Before COVID. So 2019, I started doing it. I did about 4 shows. Then after, like, November of 2021, I started working. I did my first pro show, and here I am now. So I didn't really. We couldn't count COVID. Everybody was out. So. But I did work and practice during the COVID, so I could be ready. I felt that, hey, I could probably get into the pros, and sure enough, I got into the pros, and I've just kind of taken off, and I've been rising, and I'm still pushing to get to different levels where I know I can be.
Oh, well, I know we're definitely going to be seeing you on TV lots more down the road. You sent me some information about who you work for now, Red Boxing Promotions, Elite Boxing Promotions, Fight City Boxing Promotions, and on the MMA side, 559 Fights. I believe you just got picked up with Arena Wars, CFC, MMA. If you could sum up, are these just various leagues and promotions? If you could explain to the fans out there kind of what all that means.
So Red Boxing, Elite, and Fight City are 3 of the pro boxing promotions companies that I work for now. And then as far as like Arena Wars, 559, and CFC, those are the MMA side. And these guys are, everybody, they're pretty well respected promotion companies in both boxing and MMA. And I'm really glad that I got picked up by these guys, and they insert me in their shows, and they believe in me, and I have good relationships with people, and again, these are all professionals, and I get to be seen with these guys, and they work really hard with their promotion companies, and I'm just glad, and again, very blessed that I get to be their face, I get to be their voice. And I know a lot of guys call them up, and they tell me, hey, people are calling us up, and we kind of respectfully let them know we got our guy. And that, for me, that feels good because they believe in me, and I believe in myself, and I just, again, very, very blessed to have this job.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And so are they traveling you kind of all over the States, or are you kind of just
Yeah,
in like,
primarily California. Arena Wars takes me out to Washington. They're doing shows in Nevada now, Oregon. So Arena Wars, they cover the northwest part of the country. So as far as like leaving the state, with Arena Wars, Matt Phillips, if you're watching, I'm talking about you now. But they're on NBC. They have NBC shows. Some of them they're not, but we're striving again. I just talked to Matt this week, and we're trying to get out to Reno and Las Vegas because he has his licensing there, and that's the fight capital of the world, and he's really trying to push out there so we can get the shows aired by NBC there, and really push Arena Wars. So that's a really great show for those that do watch in the northwest part of the country, and I'm really glad to be a part of that show. So Arena Wars, big up to you guys.
the more, I should say, free available fighting out there is I think better for everyone, because so many times with boxing or MMA, you get like, wait, what channel is it on? What website is it on? So
Right.
So bigger broadcasts like that, NBC, I don't know. I think fighting gets too caught up. I know it's always been this way, but for the huge heights, pay-per-view, right? It's just the nature of the business, I guess. So I think that turns a lot of people away from the sports a little bit. I mean, what are your opinions of that?
The pay-per-view, I know, like, just talking to the promoters, it's, unless if you're like the Zone or, like they have a very huge pay-per-view following, but like for the rest of them, they're making their money based off the ticket sales that go live to the shows. Pay-per-view, it's what it is. I'm not really impressed with it, but it's part of the business. I mean, I've done some pay-per-view shows, and I mean, I guess the numbers sometimes they're not what they want them to be, but it's good for me. I mean, those who watch, I mean, I guess for the exposure for me, but for the promoters, I don't know if it's really good for them. So
you got to pay the bills. I understand that everyone does, but like you talked about the Zone, and this is me. These are my opinions. Like the Zone, I was so fired up when they came up with this subscription service. I was like, okay, cool. You just pay a subscription rather than weekly pay-per-view fights, and you get all these fights. Then they went to the subscription and the pay-per-view, like tonight's Canelo fight. So, I mean, you're just getting out of a lot of pocket here, and I think it turns some people off. But anyway, those are just my 2 cents. Talk to me about MMA and kind of, I don't know. Some people say, well, it's combat sports, but it's 2 different sports. I mean, what's your take on kind of 2
MMA?
different
You have submissions versus boxing. You don't have submissions, and that's a big one. MMA, you can kick, you can strike with your feet. You're wearing. I mean, these guys are not even wearing shoes in MMA. So there's a lot more actual fighting versus just you're limited to just punching in the boxing scene. I mean, again, respect to both sports, but I think it's I think MMA, because people, you actually see, legs, kicks being thrown, punches being thrown, people getting knocked out, people getting choked out, people getting submitted. People like that, and it's growing, and it's just the crowds at MMA shows versus boxing. I got to get a little bit crazier there, because these people, in the MMA world, more power to them, but they're a little bit more outgoing than the boxing, but it's what it is. And, it's fun. I mean, at the MMA world, I got to act a little different. I got to get out of my little gentleman into a little bit more intense guy when I announce the fighters. So it's
definitely, I mean, you look at the Buffer brothers, one's UFC, very just out there, full energy. Michael Buffer, a little more, I don't know, not professional, not to say Bruce isn't, but just a little more low key and just kind of,
it's more of a gentleman's side and the boxing side.
Gentleman's side,
they kind of let loose in MMA. So
nature of the business. So help me understand this. This is somebody who's involved in the 2 sports, because I'm a fan of both sports. It drives me crazy, Robert, that MMA and boxing, cannot have some type of truce or something where they don't have the same, they don't go up against each other on, say, a Saturday night. Like tonight's a perfect example, a Canelo Alvarez fight and then a UFC pay-per-view. As a fight fan, I don't necessarily want to pay for both of those in the same night.
Right.
I could stomach paying for one, but just I want to watch both as well. Why can't we do like a Saturday, Sunday thing or something like that? Why does MMA and boxing kind of get in each other's way that way?
You know what? Good question. But for my opinion, again, it's whatever. For me, I'm a neutral. I do both, but
Yeah.
you have people that are just dedicated to one or the other, and that's how they're making their numbers. For the people who are strongly dedicated to one or the other, and just to give you a quick answer on that, I haven't really thought about it, but just from what I know off the top of my head, you got, we these guys, the MMA following, some of these guys, they just don't jump over because they're just committed to the MMA. And some people from the boxing world, they're like, no, we don't want to deal with that. We just only want to deal with boxing. And it's just, it's where you're at. It's what you want to, it's yeah.
I think they do view it as that they are two different sports, but it's like, football to me is a perfect example. You got college football Saturday and NFL on Sunday, give or take a few different day changes. I just wish they did something like that. And I wish there were more fights, honestly, on Sundays, because in the non-football season, because Saturday nights aren't always, the best time to sit down and watch a fight. You might be out or you have an event to go to or something.
Yeah.
I wish there'd be more fights on Sunday afternoons, but that's just me.
Yeah. Yeah, they've done some Sunday stuff and it hasn't really been too successful because people got to go to work the next day. And that's pretty much, Sunday nights. Yeah, they got to wake up and go to work. People are really, you don't really get too much of a following there. They've tried. I've done some shows on Sunday nights, and yeah, it should have been done on a Saturday or Friday.
People want to, be honest, have some pops, have some adult beverages, and
they sure do.
Not have to worry about the next workday. It's part of, it's kind of a tale as old as time. Back in the Roman gladiator Colosseum days, they're drinking wine and watching gladiators kill each other. It's kind of less violent now, but still same type of deal.
All entertainment, because you know what? Fighting since the Roman era, fighting has always entertained all the way to this day. It never gets old.
Oh, definitely. And Robert, who would be some of the guys that you look up to? We mentioned the Buffer brothers, but who are some names that, I don't know, some guys that you like their style or you've learned a lot of just kind of by watching them?
I'm watching like Anthony Martinez, Jimmy Lennon. I watched the Buffer brothers, and these guys, these are the guys that I'm learning from, and I've developed my own style. And again, these guys have been in the business. I'm still rising, and I'm just, I'm glad that I am, I'm involved in their circle, as far as in the pro ring announcing aspect. And again, these guys are, again, 20 years, they've been doing this for a long time. And just watching these guys, I learn. And again, I incorporate my own style, and we all do. And I just so yeah, those names I mentioned, these are the guys that I look up to, and just I want to get to their level.
One of the guys that that I know, not personally, but I kind of worked with him a little bit, was Joe Martinez, who was a Cal State Fullerton basketball announcer. He also did the Lake Elsinore Storm. And now you see him on a lot of, I think UFC specifically, he does, fills in sometimes when someone else isn't doing it. So he's got quite a voice, and we've talked here and there at sporting events, but yeah, he seems that he stepped away from those other sports and he's all in on one now. So,
right.
Have you considered doing any other sports, or are you just strictly fighting guy?
Just strictly fighting. It was tough for me to give up like the baseball stuff. I kind of had to step away because my shows are on the weekends, and this year I actually gave up, working, Southland Conference with Mike Fagan and Clinton, a lot of the stuff I was doing, and it just kind of, and I did some baseball out here, but you really have to, in order to really master what it is you want to do, especially if you're going to a higher level, you really have to kind of give certain things up and make some sacrifices.
Absolutely. You prioritize, what's important most to you. And I think that's, again, something that I found myself doing. I can relate to kind of you, is in the sense of, I loved officiating all the various sports, but over time I kind of I gave up basketball. Then I gave up football. Then it was a gradual process for me. It's like, what is most important? What am I best at? All that good stuff. And so, yeah, we all have to make those decisions with whatever we're pursuing. And it sounds like, you're all in on this, and heck, you've only been doing it for 3 or 4 years now. And it's going very, very well for you. I will ask you this, as especially a ring announcer. We all know Michael Buffer, let's get ready to rumble. Bruce Buffer, it's time, or
That's right.
whatever. They all have a catchphrase. What is Robert James's catchphrase in the ring?
It's fight night. That's my phrase. That's my catchphrase.
It's fight night. I like it.
That's right.
And you kind of string it out a little bit, and you see that the fans.
Do.
Yeah,
I sure do. I let it roll. I let it be known as fight night. But I've done some shows in the afternoon, and I can't exactly say it's fight afternoon. So it's kind of funny. But I mean, those are just some little things I did, like for favors for some amateur shows that were in the afternoon. So
yeah,
I had to think about that one. So I had to I couldn't exactly, use my catchphrase there.
Hey, someone's probably watching on the East Coast and it's nighttime there. And yeah, there's fight night just flows off the tongue. That's what people would ask me. What are you doing Saturday night? I'm usually, fight night. Like I'm watching some card somewhere. How did you settle on it's fight night? Just something that's that simple, or did you try some other things too? Also,
I was thinking about it for a long time.
Yeah.
And
trial and
I had
error.
some others, but it just, you know what? It's fight night. I actually had to consult with other promoters and other people. How does that sound? The way I do it. And I had to make sure that it made sense out of respect for both MMA and boxing. So yeah. And the crowd will let you know. The crowd
Absolutely.
will let you know.
Yeah, back to Gladiator, win the crowd, right? Win the crowd. If you, well, not if you could, one thing that is unique to boxing and combat sports is it's something I love, and maybe you don't do it as much at the levels, that you're not dealing with, an IBC championship or whatever, but I love in UFC and boxing, the announcer, when he announces the scorecards, and I think it's just so unique to the sport. And still the champ, and new, like there's this build-up anticipation. What's he gonna say? And it's
That's
one
right.
word,
Timing.
one word difference that tells people who won without announcing the name. It's something so unique to the sport.
Yeah, it's timing. It's your cadence. You got to keep people in suspense, especially on a split decision, any type of decision. If it's a TKO or KO, we know what's up. So there's no suspense there. But if you're giving a decision, you want to be able to keep the crowd in suspense. You don't want to be too quick. Just like in baseball, we got to have our timing, right? We're not trying to make something too quick, But yeah. Again, suspense, dealing with crowds, dealing with television, you want to make sure that because you're adding to the show. But what I hate to do is draws, because everybody looks at me like it's my fault. So the draws, that's just horrible for anybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a draw. Don't yell at me. Yeah,
yes.
I heard a great podcast I've been listening to, The Third Man in the Ring, with boxing referee Ray Corona.
Ray Corona. We both said it at the same time. Yeah,
he's fantastic. I love what he does in the ring, and he's talked to other referees. He had Jimmy Lennon Jr. on a podcast a couple weeks ago, talking to him. So that was really interesting. And again, back to the East LA thing, where Ray is from, and
he's from Bassett. He's from SGV.
Bassett, right? Yeah, right down the street. So that's another reason I like to listen to that. He does great work. Talk to me about your interaction maybe with referees as a former official.
Ray, if you're watching, hi, how are you?
I hope Ray Corona is watching.
We've done some shows, and he's a great guy. He's another SGV guy, and we always kind of joke in the ring a little bit about being from the same area, and we kind of have our little inside jokes, if you know what I mean, Ray. If you're watching, I always make sure he cracks a smile in his face, because he's got that look on his face. He's an all business guy, and I respect it. He's a well-respected official, one of the top officials in the world. and I'm very grateful to, to work with them and have a relationship with them through boxing, and, good old Popeye, right? But that's so. But my relationship with a lot of these guys, like Ray Corona, great inspiration for guys from SGV to kind of, to make it in this business, and he's made it. And again, watching him work, he's a great person to watch. He handles business in the ring. I've worked with Ray Armendariz, Thomas Taylor. Thomas Taylor and I did a show a couple of weeks ago at Thunder Studios in Long Beach, and he just did the he just did the Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia fight. To watch him work at that magnitude, I mean, these are some of the guys. We worked a WBA show with Tito Mercado, who's coming up. That he's doing something special. Tito Ernesto Mercado from Pomona. He's another SGV guy that's on his way up. He's 10-0, all wins by the way of knockout. And I spoke to his father today a little bit, and he's on his way to, he's not going to tell me what he's signing, but he's going to do some big things. But again, also like Don DeVerges and Damian Walton, they're judges aside from referees that have helped me and mentored me, especially Damian Walton. He's done an excellent job of making sure I understand this business. And I want to put the shout out there for Damian and Ray Armendariz. Him and I, Ray Armendariz does a lot of, he does a lot of work, for the in professional boxing. And I want to also acknowledge David Denkin as well. His father is Marty Denkin. Marty Denkin was he was in the Rocky movies, and he was a Hall of Fame guy in the professional boxing scene too. So David, thank you for helping me understand MMA as well. He's always picking up the phone calls for me and letting me know, the do's and the don'ts and what I should say and what I shouldn't say. So, but these are really good guys that, people that I can reach out to. And again, also to Ray Armendariz, phone call away too. And thank you for your time if you're watching too, for making sure I understand these guys are some of the best in the business that mentor me with understanding the rules and everything I need to know about boxing. So, again, these are respected names in the business that I deal with, and I'm just very grateful to have the relationships through boxing with them.
And it's so funny with so many people involved in the sport, the judges, the referees, I, as a former official and current official yourself, people love to referee from their couch. They could see everything from their couch. They're the very best. How could the judges do that? How could the referees do that? So that's why I love hearing Ray Corona's podcast and, just hearing the insights of those things. So I'm a big fan of officials in all sports, whatever it is, especially combat sports. I went to a fight 3-4 years ago, again, pre-COVID, I think, and down in Pachanga. And it was my first time seeing boxing live, and I went with my brother, and it was so awesome to just be down there. And the referees, guys like Ray Corona, they just kind of walk. It was cool. They just walk around. They take pictures with people, and it was just like, wow, you don't see this stuff on TV. So boxing in person was a real treat for me, and I can't wait to see some MMA in person sometime.
Oh yeah,
it was a unique experience. Who fought that night? It was Teofimo Lopez knocked him out a few years ago. And then anyway, doesn't matter, I guess. But
I thought you were a UFC official. I've seen you in your Facebook profile.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, are you did you get picked up?
Yeah, I appreciate. I was flattered, but yeah, that was just a Halloween costume. One year I was a boxing referee. And then the next year, which is still my Facebook profile, was a UFC referee. That was just a Halloween costume. Just Halloween. I promise.
Hired you, man.
No, dude, I don't know how those referees, especially in MMA, how they step in and they manage that, man. I mean, it's hard in boxing too, but MMA, I'm sure you've seen, those referees got to get hands on and get in between and pull people off. I mean,
they're big boys. They're strong. A lot of them, they lift weights too, and they got to be able to go in and stop something, because some of these fighters, they don't know when to stop. They just see all red and they're just going, and you got to be able to go ahead and get in between these guys and make them stop.
Yeah,
these are strong boys, so they got to be strong as well.
What are some memories you have, Robert, of places maybe you've been? You talked to me about the first time you stepped in the ring, but I mean, it could be anything, a specific fight, just a moment, or maybe some of the places you've been assigned, the nice areas or whatever. Any memories from so
I'll
far
tell you what,
from your?
the first time I ever did a show was with George Francis, and he allowed me to do one of his MMA shows. First time, and I think the lights were off, and they turned them on. And as soon as they turned them on, it was a part of the show. I seen all these people, and I just kind of got a little overwhelmed. And then I have a camera in my face, and I just was like, "Whoa, this is real! Everybody's looking at me," and I have to perform. And as far as the memory, that's one that has never went away, because it just reminds me, hey, I started this way, and I was able to overcome, and the show went on, and I was able to get over my little jitters and just entertain a crowd, and really get the show on the road, and build my confidence. So that's kind of a memory that has lasted with me, and it's a reminder every time I get into a cage or a ring, So
It's like throwing on the plate gear. First time you look around, you're like, oh my goodness. And then, okay, it's just baseball. Let's go.
yes,
Right?
that's right.
And you said you primarily in Southern California, but you travel other places. I mean, what do you have any upcoming events or upcoming
I sure
boxing?
do. Next Saturday, I'm gonna go to Visalia, California. I'm gonna be working with Jim Cooley from UFC Fight Pass. We're gonna be with 559 Fights, so we have a pretty big event out there, and that's all with you, like Uriah Faber, and A1 Combat Sports. He's affiliated with them, and they're also UFC affiliates. So I look forward to working with these guys, because these guys are, they're gonna mold me to where I need to get to, and even with they're all UFC involved. So they're bringing me aboard to make sure that I'm on the right direction, because obviously I get a phone call from Jim Cooley, and he needs a guy, and I'm their guy. So I felt very flattered, because Jim Cooley, he's also, again, UFC commentator, well respected in the business, and he called me up because I've been working my way, and he identified me and is bringing me out there and has given me 7 shows. So I'm excited about growing with these guys and potentially leading to the UFC. So I'm cool. I'm pretty stoked with that. And Jim, if you're watching too, thank you for believing me. My work, you've identified it, and you're one of probably another respected name in the business. So here we go. Next weekend, Visalia, California, 559 Fights. We're ready to go.
One of the first fights I officiated happened to be in Visalia, and I told you I was not a boxing referee or MMA referee, but I was a minor league baseball umpire. And
hey,
I'll never forget it. 2012, Visalia, San Jose at Visalia, up in the California League. There was a play at the plate. I was at home plate, called the guy out. The runner and the catcher were they were mad at each other for getting tangled up. They stepped in. I stepped in between them. I thought I had him separated. And the catcher, with his catcher's glove, threw a punch over my shoulder. Bam, left hook to the base runner.
Oh, wow.
And then it was on, dude. 50 dudes running out here into us. And at that point, I stepped aside and just started writing numbers down with my partner. So one of the only fights I was directly involved in as a non-boxing referee.
Quite all right. I'm probably going to be at the same stadium as you, because we're working at a minor league stadium out there.
Yeah. Yeah. The Rawhide. Yeah. It's like a cage match when you're umpiring baseball. The backstop's right up against the home plate, and it's just these clear nets. It was like, just arena baseball or something like that.
Yeah.
Visalia. Not much else going on up in that town, rather than some
Central California. But I'm also going to be we've got some stuff coming up with Red Boxing Promotions too. June 3rd, San Diego. It's a sold out event already. So nice. We're going to do Rally Ral, Lizarraga, who's also an undefeated professional fighter. He's doing his homecoming out there. We have Elite Boxing coming up, which with Carlos, he does an outstanding shows where he has the WBC involved. He has he has different networks covering his stuff. He has Supreme Boxing involved. A lot of eyes out there. You get a lot of heavy hitters that go to his shows, and I'm just really glad to be a part of Elite Boxing as well too. So they've got stuff coming up out here every other month in Southern California.
When do you got some Southern California events? Because I had a lot of listeners here, and obviously I would be interested too. Is there anything local coming up?
I want to say May 20th, Thunder Studios, Elite Boxing, San Diego as well, June 3rd with Red Boxing. Just like these are the things I've got going on here.
What'd you say? Where's that? Where's that? May 20th, you said Thunder Studios? Where's that?
Yeah, it's in Long Beach.
Oh, okay. Long Beach.
That's in Long Beach, yeah.
That's so was that? Is that Memorial Day? No, the 20th.
No.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe I have to sneak down there and check out a fight card in person, man. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Again, these guys are running shows once a month, once every other month. So, I mean, I got 3 shows, maybe 4 shows every month now, working for different promotion companies. And I'm blessed. I'm doing a show in Vegas in October. So that's going to be fun. I can't really disclose the casino it's going to be at because that's kind of that it wasn't disclosed to me yet, but it's probably going to be a sellout crowd out there too. So in October, I look forward to going out there and working in Las Vegas in professional boxing as well.
Professional boxing in Las Vegas. I mean, say no more. I mean, the history of just those words, that's so cool for you, Robert. I think it's awesome what you're doing. This is a random question because it's something that, again, has just stood the test of time, hasn't changed a whole lot. Ring announcers are always not just suited and booted, but in that tuxedo, man, the old school look. Does that ever get tired of throwing that thing on and having to perform in it?
You know what? I do. I wear different suits. They're a little bit, little different here, a little flashier. And I've even tried it. I've gone to different little bow ties and stuff that are a little flashier as well. And I'm kind of went to the slim fit pants for the bottom part. So I'm up to date with the new fashions, we'll say.
Yeah.
So
swagger, man. It's like usually, broadcasters or whatever, like a public address announcer, they're just up in the booth or something, but it's really one of the only sports, where the announcer is literally on the field, in the ring,
that's right,
with the competitors, right?
That's right. Again, it's all a part of the respect for the business, and that's just what they've been doing forever. And it's just you have to add your own little flavor to it, and that's what I do myself. I add my little new school flavor to it, and something that a lot of people now in this day and age can identify with, as far as like wearing like my my suits that have flowers on them, or or they have sequins on them, or they're sparkly. I mean, and I get a lot of good reviews, and a lot of people complimenting my style. So that's part of what I bring to the table when I ring announce.
You got to have style in that business. I think, back to baseball, umpires famously have their own styles. We're not robots out there, even though they want robot umpires in the future. But yeah, I think you develop style however you do things. And I'm sure you've learned a lot from baseball umpiring that kind of transitioned into the boxing and MMA ring announce, right?
You know what? I think about that. It's the confidence and just knowing, like when you know the rules, you go out in a baseball field, you feel like, these coaches don't know you already know. You can take over a conversation or any argument that they may have because you know the rules, and 9 times out of 10 they don't. So bring that over to boxing, like, now that I know the rules of boxing and know the etiquette, like a lot of people don't know it, and I do. So I feel that confidence when I go into the ring of what I'm doing, because not a lot of people take the time to understand what it is, what I do. Only certain people do do take the time. And so that's where my confidence is. And I transitions from baseball to ring announcing. So, and I'm glad, because it's nothing new to me. It's just making sure I understand things and how I incorporate them when I need to in the ring.
For those that don't know, I want to kind of paint a picture here, because this is, again, something I saw in person and then have witnessed, because I watch kind of the behind the scenes stuff in boxing, and maybe it's different in MMA, but I'm sure it's the same. After each round, and you correct me after I'm done here if I'm wrong, but like after each round, the referee walks to all 3 judges, and the judges kind of give him the scorecards to then give to whoever it may be. And then at the end of the fight, how is it communicated to you from the judges to you making your announcement? Talk about that process, if you will.
That process is, right when I know that the fight is about to be over, or if I, most of the time, if it goes all 8 rounds, 6 rounds, 10 rounds, 12 rounds, I know I got to get up and I got to go sit next to the lead inspector, who's going to get all those cards and all those points, and he's going to tally them up on his sheet, and he's going to circle the winner for me. And he's going to let me know if it's a split decision, majority decision, unanimous decision, whatever decision they have. And then I'm going to get with the judges. I'm going to see their names. I'm going to put on my little card, hey, judge, judge 1, judge 2, judge 3, and so I'm going to, if it's a split decision, I write down the scores on my little cue card, and I go in there, hey, after 4 rounds of, action, we now go to our scorecards. We have a split decision. Judge 1 scores this contest, judge 2, judge 3, then you put it out there. If they're undefeated, new champion, new this, and there you go. In a sense, that's all that has, how that comes about.
So the referee collects the 3 judges' scorecards after each round and gives them to, you said, the lead inspector?
The lead inspector, yes.
Okay. And then does anybody have access to what the judges' cards are until the very end?
No.
Okay. And that's for a reason, I got to imagine, so that it's all
confidentiality, and that's just their protocol. But yeah, the referee picks them all up, hands them to the lead inspector. He does what he does with them, updates his scorecards, and then he tallies them up at the end of the match or the bout, and he gives me that information, and I go ahead and give that decision.
And you are the first person, other than the inspector, he knows who's won. You're the first person to find that out. Is it hard sometimes? Because there is a little bit of a delay. Kind of, you walk up and the 2 fighters are there, and you're ready to make the announcement. Is it kind of like, is it hard? I mean, poker face or whatever you want to call it, just not giving anything away. Is that a little hard?
Yeah, you know what? Good. I like that, because the poker face. Yeah, because sometimes some of these fighters, they kind of, deep down inside, you're kind of like, I hope this guy wins, but you can't show it, because sometimes maybe backstage someone kind of rubbed you the wrong way, and just different things. And I'll be honest, but then again, it's I go in there with a straight face, and I'm not giving anything away until it's time to deliver that message. And if it's someone that I really like, I give them a little bit more love when it comes to being a little louder, and I give it to them.
That is really cool. Yeah, that's, again, I like the uniqueness to different sports, and seeing that is like something I always think about that when I'm watching, because like we're standing around waiting for the announcement, and I read kind of the announcer sometimes, and I'm like, man, he knows who won. Is he giving anything away? No, you can't tell. And have you ever been? It's probably not as often, but have you ever been surprised by a decision? You're like, is this right?
Oh yeah. Especially when something should have been a unanimous decision, and they have me go up there saying it's a split draw. I had that a couple of weeks ago, and it was, everybody kind of had something to say.
It's literally,
man, I don't know how he got too close to us, but I guess he kind of snuck by security, kind of got into my space, and he was asking me in Spanish, like, why did he thought that I'm the one that came up with that conclusion. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, who is this guy? Kind of walked away. I just knew better, and I didn't want to engage.
You're literally don't shoot the messenger. You're literally just the messenger announcing those guys made the decision. I'm just relaying it to everybody. Right.
Right. And you know what? Sometimes you feel when everybody starts booing you, I'm like, oh man, okay. And you just kind of got to get out of the ring real quick, so you're not there, getting all the tomatoes being thrown at you.
Yeah. Well, it's just the passion of fighters is so interesting, and especially the starting out levels. You got young guys who are aspiring to get that first pro contract, or to become Olympian, whatever it may be, and it's their lives, man. That's one thing I love about fighting. Well, not one, many things. There's so much training that goes into it for. When you're starting out for 12 minutes, you put all this time in for 12 minutes, or, the championship fights, 36 minutes. Like that's just crazy to me, that months of training for 36 minutes sometimes, or less, obviously.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Or less.
Yeah.
or 10
And
seconds in and you get knocked out. Yeah, I've seen that.
oh,
These guys put a lot of work, and I mean, sometimes, it's again, I see people who, you just people from, different training, environments, and some people may, train harder than others, and and the guy that didn't train so hard, they end up getting the W. So it's what it is. I've seen some people who are really, really physically fit go against the guys that don't even look really physically fit, and the guy that didn't really look physically fit, he's the one getting the knockout.
yeah.
You know,
What Let me ask you, I didn't prep you for this, but it just popped into my head. There is some crossover in the sport. You see got UFC guys or former UFC guys step in the boxing ring and fight. We've seen, the Jake Pauls of the world, these YouTube guys. I have to imagine, I don't know personally, but I got to imagine that doesn't sit well with some of these young and upcoming fighters who have been working their whole lives to get somewhere, and someone kind of, I don't know, steps ahead of them, if you will. I'm not sure what I'm asking exactly, but just kind of the crossover and kind of the uniqueness to these guys who haven't been in the rings their whole life. Is that kind of trouble?
I get what
younger?
you're saying. Like some of these internet guys that come in, they have a huge following, and then they're getting the big shots before the guys who are putting in that work, that are training. They're kind of going through the traditional steps of how to get to the top. But some of these guys, because they're YouTubers and they create all this noise, and they're like, all of a sudden they get a shot to be, to against someone who's a legitimate fighter, and they get that opportunity to show, versus that guy who's, training. And you know what? It's the world we live in. People just want to see, it's entertainment, and who's going to draw, the big numbers, whether it's, people in the seats or pay-per-view purchases, but that's what they're going for.
Yeah.
And that's what it is, whether you like it or not. And that's just the name of the game.
Well,
in entertainment.
Entertainment, it's promoting yourself, promoting the event. Not necessarily something I've always been good at. I'm kind of a, low key, keep to myself kind of guy, introvert, but promoting yourself or your business, it's just the nature of the business, as you mentioned. And so you're fortunate to work with a lot of people, and who've been great to you. Man, if you would, Robert, I mean, promote your brand here as we kind of wrap it up here soon. Anything else you want to say about, people or your future in this business?
Just everybody who's helped me along the way. People who give me the opportunities to work with them. I mean, thank you for taking the chance on me. I mean, I put in my work. I work, and I work hard, prepping for these shows, rehearsing, making sure that I understand what I'm saying, and making sure I understand just the whole business. And people that know me in this business that really got to talk to me, they know where I'm coming from. And just some of the guys, like my Uncle Tony started, I'm gonna just put him out there like that, as an inspiration to me. He trained Sugar Shane Mosley, he's trained Paul Behnke, Richie Sandoval, Albert Superfly Sandoval, and even my own cousin Tony Sandoval Jr. All these guys are Hall of Famers, and all from Pomona. So I'm just really glad that I have that in my family, and I'm just carrying on that torch from what they started, in the ring announcing stuff. But I'm still in the business, and all those guys who know the names I just said, in the boxing industry, these are pretty well respected names, and I just want to be that name as well, and carry that torch from what they've started, and but as far as anything else, just keep following. I see myself, I'm just progressing, and I'm getting bigger shows, and just, I'm humble, and I just want to keep on grinding. And, thank you, Matt, for, having me here, and we'll just keep track of the progress and how we go,
Yeah.
And
Absolutely, man. It's been a pleasure, and I'm excited to talk to anyone in the fight game, or come out to a show or something. We'll have to make that happen. Two big fights tonight. I'm gonna put you on the spot. Who you got, John Ryder or Canelo Alvarez tonight? What do you think?
I'm gonna go with Canelo Alvarez tonight.
Yeah,
I
think so.
Hard. I'm not gonna say Ryder's not working hard, but you know what? Alvarez is where he's at, and he's gonna do his thing. Big Cinco de Mayo fight, and he's got a lot of people, a lot of the Mexican culture to make sure that he brings home that victory for.
Yeah, Oh yeah, you got to love it. It's a fun weekend every time Canelo fights. I love his ring entrance. John Ryder though, man, 32-5. So we'll see what happens there. And then on the MMA side of things, big UFC 288, Sterling or Cejudo. I like Cejudo personally, but what do you think?
I'll go with you on Cejudo. Yeah, I like him too.
Absolutely. 22-3 versus 16-2 should be a great fight in UFC tonight.
A little bit more experience, but
yeah. Fine. Absolutely. Finally, Robert, where can people follow you? Do you have social media or whatever, or what's the best way to kind of?
You can look me up on Robert James, on Facebook. I'm there. I'm starting to put more things up about my career. I really didn't do it before, but I got to get better with that. But I'm starting to put more things up as far as the shows that I'm doing. So, if people are curious, they can kind of see what I'm doing there.
That's awesome, man. Well, I will post anything I can regarding you. And anytime I see you out there in the boxing ring, I'll be like, hey, Get Home Safe podcast. Don't forget, he was on here. He was on here first. So thanks for talking fighting with me, Robert. I hope to see you very, very soon, man. And it's fight night, right?
That's right. It's fight night tonight for both MMA and boxing. So
can't wait, man.
Enjoy the fights tonight, everybody. And again, thank you for having me on your show, Matt. It means a lot. And keep me in your thoughts and keep on watching boxing. And again, here we are, and just very blessed to do what I do.
Well, who's ready for some fighting tonight? I know I'm ready. Canelo Alvarez, Henry Cejudo. Don't let me down, guys. I picked you here. Breaking news, making those picks. UFC boxing. I'm pumped here. Going to finish up a few more chores around the house and get ready for Cinco de Mayo weekend. It's been a fun weekend already. Kicking it off Friday night. Made a little fiesta here at the house, at least to our standards. But fighting. I don't know, man. Just there's something about a big fight. I love the Super Bowl. I love March Madness. I love the World Series, but the anticipation for fights every weekend, especially, it just gets your juices flowing. Thank you, Robert James, for being on the podcast. I am going to be in touch with you, my friend, during big fights and just anytime you're out working. I got to come out and see you in person. It's been a while and some good memories on the baseball field together, but I love talking boxing. I love talking MMA with anyone who will. I don't know that much about it. I just have grown in love with the two sports and have tried to learn every step of the way, try to come away with something each weekend. It's inspiring to see people commit to something and then put themselves out there in the ring, in the octagon, not just the fighters, but the ring announcers, the referees, the judges, all these people that make it go. And that was a lot of fun. That was really a lot of fun. A unique podcast here on Get Home Safe. For those maybe that tuned in just to hear Robert, you haven't heard the Get Home Safe podcast before. I started this back up in March of 2020. Started out talking with friends and just people I knew, getting to know their stories. Obviously, talking about my opinions on sports and other matters and things. That's kind of what it is now. But occasionally we have guests on, like Robert James. In the previous past, I've had Major League Baseball announcers on. I've one of my favorite interviews, Tony Padilla, an NCAA basketball referee who officiated the Final Four 2 years ago. He's third time him doing that. Chatted with him on the podcast. I've had some fun interviews here, and this one goes right back up there towards the top, because again, I don't get to talk to many people in the fight game. It's something I love and want to learn more about. So thanks, Robert James. Once again, we will be back for more podcasts next week, as this has turned into a weekly show. For the most part, we're putting shows out on the weekends now. Recording on either Saturday or Sunday. Occasionally I'll move it to Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on the work schedule and things. But again, follow us on social media, Get Home Safe at Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We put all our content there. You can watch our show on YouTube, of course. Our new format is rumble.com as well. And then Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you listen to audio only platforms or podcasts, we're there as well. So give us a like, give us a follow. We'd love the podcast to grow. If it's not for you, that's all good. No offense taken. But if you want to check it out and hear me ramble away every week or so about my thoughts on things, please check in. This is not a boxing only podcast. This is a sports, a life, just everyday random thoughts that go through my head sometimes. Try to come on here for 30 minutes to an hour every week and, come up with something. So thanks for tuning in, guys, to you loyal listeners and to the new fans out there. To Robert James, good luck to you, man. I know you're going to do great things, and we'll be watching you on DAZN or ESPN or something or other here real soon. So, guys, enjoy the 2 fights tonight. Enjoy Cinco de Mayo weekend. Summer's right around the corner. Robert James and the James family, God bless you for your service in the various branches of the military as well. Can't thank you guys enough. And that's it, guys. Another fun episode of the Get Home Safe podcast. We'll be back next week. Probably just me, but that could always change. Stay tuned. Follow us on social media so you have all of the information needed. As always, guys, no matter what you're doing, whether you're out on the town or rounding third base, get home safe.